Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. By now you probably know that I love Doom. It is definitely high up there on my favourite games of all time list. And yep, I've played a fair few mods by now, and thanks to recommendations mostly from you awesome people, I have yet another video of mods for Doom that are based on other video games. So how about I shut up, you press that subscribe button and we take a look at some mods. Let's start with Doom Backrooms, or maybe just Backrooms or Backdooms, whatever you want to call it. This is a simple one level mod for Doom 2 based on the backroom craze that I don't really know anything about. As far as I can tell, it's one of those internet things where they put some creepy monsters in a maze-like office looking area, and I've seen it on the Steam store and other versions available on the Oculus Quest. And that's what this mod is, sort of, I'm guessing. Basically, it's a huge maze filled with confusing corridors, dead ends and hidden walls that you need to navigate through. The idea is to find 3 buttons hidden in the level. Pressing them will open up new areas, but you're not told where, so you've got to keep running around like a madman. Eventually, when they've all been pressed, the exit will open and the level is done. Of course, as it's a backrooms thing, there's going to be some creepy ass monsters wandering around that will jump out and make you shit yourself. Except no, there aren't. There's only one monster in the level, and it turns out it's that Commander Keen sprite that is in one of the secret levels from the original Doom 2 game. That was a bit of a letdown. I was expecting something to pop out and scare me. But no, so really this mod just boils down to wandering around a massive empty maze full of beige walls until you find the exit. Not the most exciting thing. It only takes about 5 minutes to play through, it doesn't really have any new assets, textures or anything like that, but you know, it's alright. I guess it does what it sets out to do, and it could be that I'm being dumb and I meant to mix this with another mod that adds some scary monsters, but as it is, it's just a little boring and pointless and not one that I'd recommend. Time for one that I'm surprised it took me so long to check out. This is Nukem Doom, which, as you'd expect, lets you play as Duke Nukem in the Doom world, bringing in weapons, enemies, one-liners and babes from the awesome Duke Nukem 3D. Now the version I got didn't include any levels, so I have to give a shout out to the amazing compendium map pack that I found online that gives you easy access to dozens of huge varied campaigns featuring hundreds of levels across just about every theme you can think of. Link is in the description below, because I love you all. Here I'm playing the Final Countdown map pack, as it seemed the most Duke-like from the selection, being set in real-world locations in a big city. It's a cool map pack, but it's bloody hard and the levels are very maze-like, which I guess all Doom levels are really. Anyway, the Duke Nukem mod does exactly what you'd expect it to. You've got Duke's mighty boot, his pistol, shotgun, ripper cannon, RPG, pipe bombs, devastator. You know what, I already said it has all the weapons, so you know what I mean by that. But yeah, they all work perfectly here, and they do things like they would do in the proper Duke Nukem 3D game. There's even a few new weapons that I didn't recognise, which could be new to this game, or they might just be from Duke Nukem 3D expansion packs that I haven't played, like the electric gun, which is really powerful and causes enemies to explode. In fact, this might be from Duke Nukem 64. You can also dual wield the pistols now, which is cool, and there's even a double barrel shotgun which is very powerful, and might be the one from Blood, but don't quote me on that. All the enemies here are replaced with ones from Duke's outing as well, but they seem to be more dangerous here, taking a fair bit more punishment and dishing it out just as well. As with the weapons, there's also some new ones in here as well. Again, these might just be from the other games or expansion packs that I don't know. Some of the new enemies are just colour variants on the usual ones, but of course, like in classic video game ways, it means they're more powerful, faster and harder to kill. Other new ones are kind of robot-like enemies that really pack a punch, and that sort of thing. They do all fit in, and the gameplay is almost your classic Duke. I say almost, as while a lot of the time I would forget I was playing this in Doom, other times it was kind of noticeable. Usually it's when you have to shoot an enemy that's high up, as Doom auto-locks onto certain things, usually on the same plane as you. I wouldn't be able to shoot an enemy that was above me because the game was prioritising the plant pot in front of me, even if you're aiming up, and for some reason it would just aim at the plant pot. Also, when you're using the jetpack, I couldn't find a way to change my height. I'd basically just fly straight to the top of the environment with no way to come down, other than just turning off the jetpack. The only other real noticeable thing is with the pipe bombs. The physics and hitboxes while using them are definitely not as good as they are in the real game, but that's alright as there's plenty of other weapons to choose from. Thankfully the gore is intact, and actually I think there's more of it here. The enemies even have new death animations, I believe. But probably my biggest gripe with this one is just how much the screen shakes and wobbles when you shoot. It's very distracting, especially when using weapons like the ripper cannon. It makes it hard to see what the hell's going on. But overall, this is a really great mod. You can play through the regular games with it if you want to, but I'd recommend using some random map packs to really mix things up. How about this then? A mod that turns Doom 2 into the NES version of Friday the 13th. This is a cool total conversion thing where, as the Doom guy, you've got to explore Camp Crystal Lake and its surrounding areas to stop Jason from killing all the camp councillors, and it's much easier said than done. This mod has done a fantastic job of recreating the entire NES game in the Doom engine, and it actually looks really cool in 3D. You'll explore the cabins, forests, caves, and the lake, and even some hidden areas where you'll have to try and stop Jason on his killing spree. The trouble with it is that it's basically a perfect port of the NES game, where you often have no idea what the hell you're meant to be doing or where you need to go. Basically, it's a race against the clock, and you've got to get all around the cabins in the world where you've got to light the fires in them. Jason's afraid of fire, so won't go in the houses that have a lit one. Then you've got to collect a bunch of weapons, including your pistol, a knife, machete, axe, crossbow, even a shotgun, and you'll need these to take down Jason if you see him. As you explore, you'll need to find the camp councillors and get them out of the cabins and into the ones with the fire in them, but Jason is also wandering around all over the place killing them off. And what's cool is that you actually see the corpses of any councillors around the map where they've been killed. On top of this, there's actually Jason copycats that will appear randomly that you'll need to fight. These fights are kind of rare, but tough, so when they happen they're pretty intense. Jason and the copycats throw axes at you and take a hell of a lot of firepower to put down. As you explore, you'll also find keys that are used to open new areas that contain probably the best weapons and even a few other surprises. Gameplay wise, that is the real bulk of it. You need to explore every route available on the map, as they don't always take you where you'd expect them to, and a lot of memorization is needed to remember where you've been and which paths to take to the woods, the caves or the cabins. What's nice is that you find paper scraps that give you small hints as to where to go and what to do. They aren't a massive help, but still infinitely more help than what you get in the actual NES game. I've never actually managed to save a single councillor in my 3 or 4 tries. I doubt I ever will. In this or the NES game, that is. But it's still somehow kind of fun to go around and try and figure out what the hell you need to do. In fact, think about it, I've never actually seen a councillor that hasn't been murdered. My bad. The sprites here are really cool and look just like the NES game, with some of those sprites actually being used here. More importantly, the music is great, using samples from the films, and it did actually make me jump at one point with a scream that came out of nowhere when someone was killed. I'm not sure if I'll ever really go back to this one, but it is still one that I would definitely recommend checking out. Now here's a random one. Someone has converted the SNES cult game Hong Kong 97 into Doom. For those of you that don't know, Hong Kong 97 is a really odd unlicensed SNES game where you are Bruce Lee's cousin Chin and you've got to take down a Chinese dictator. It's a shooter in the style of Space Invaders where you're at the bottom of the screen and have to shoot everything above you. It's kind of famous for being terrible, but also because it features digitized sprites of actual dead bodies, as well as Saddam Hussein and the disembodied head of Deng Xiaoping, a long-dead dictator. So yeah, makes sense to put this in Doom. The story and gameplay here are largely the same as the SNES game. Well, actually, I say that, I've never played the SNES one. I've only seen that AVGN video on it. But the gameplay here sees you as Doom Guy and you're at the bottom of the screen. You can only move left and right and shoot. You've only got your pistol and that's it. There's ammo boxes that respawn every level, so you're unlikely ever to run out. Then there's a single image that is repeated in the background like a bad 90s wallpaper that spins around you as enemies spawn in. You just get the zombie men and imps, and you've got to kill as many as you can and survive until the boss turns up. Enemies only take one hit, and the zombie men shoot plasma shots at you, not bullets, giving you something of a chance to dodge them as you can only move left and right, but it doesn't help too much. Oh, and when you do kill them, a great JPEG of an explosion appears, and the corpse is a JPEG of a dead body. But this is also what happens in the SNES game, so it's accurate. The boss is just a massive version of Doom Guy's face that's at the bottom of the screen. It appears after a minute or so, and is basically a reskinned cyber demon that fires rockets at you that pretty much kill you instantly. It is possible to beat him and to move on to the next level, where the whole thing just repeats seemingly forever. It's actually incredibly difficult, and I ended up resorting to cheats so I could see what changes, and it seems like nothing really. I played for about 20 minutes, and I'm not entirely sure how I managed that long, and other than the background changing to a new picture, the gameplay remains exactly the same. The SNES version does actually have an ending and a bunch of levels, so it is entirely possible that this mod is the same and does have an ending, but I'll be honest, I just didn't want to play it enough to find out. Now, it's hard to say that this is a bad mod, as actually it appears to mirror the source material perfectly, which technically makes it a really good mod. It's just that the source material is awful, and so is playing this. Except the music. The music is incredible. Hotline UAC is a great conversion that brings in the gameplay from the awesome Hotline Miami games to Doom, and it works incredibly well, but holy shit is it hard. Hotline Miami is all about super fast gameplay, quick reflexes, and surprisingly tactical planning. This is a gameplay conversion mod that, as far as I know, doesn't have any of its own levels, so just use it with whatever map pack you prefer. But how does it work? Well, you choose from a few characters, though as far as I could tell there wasn't much difference at all. Then you play through the game as normal, except now all enemies, and you, die in just one shot. Well, that's not entirely true, as some weapons stun but don't kill. Human enemies have been replaced with sprites that mimic the ones from the Hotline Miami games, but other monsters all appear to be untouched, though they do move a hell of a lot faster. A lot of new weapons have been added here, in fact they're all brand new. There's new pistols, shotguns, baseball bats, bricks, knives, swords, and even bottles you can throw at people. There's just so much. Pressing the left mouse button attacks as you'd expect with your weapon, but pressing the right mouse button lets you throw whatever weapon you're holding. Throwing becomes very important, as weapons are randomized every time. You rarely find ammo for guns, and swapping weapons is a big part of the gameplay here, but be careful as you actually have to press the action button to pick up and swap weapons out. So if you're out of ammo, you can't just run over a new weapon to grab it. This is where throwing comes into play, as you can throw your empty gun at enemies to knock them over and they'll drop their weapon in the process. You can only carry one weapon at a time, but thankfully enemies don't ever pick up weapons, only drop them, and you can still punch people if you don't have a weapon. There's also health pickups and armour, which can help you take one extra hit every now and then, but really you'll be dying almost instantly all the time, so I largely ignored these for the most part, as you still need to press the button to pick them up, and I didn't like not being focused on the enemies. Overall though, this is a really fun mod that definitely caters to Doom veterans. It's really damn tough, but that's the whole point. It's also incredibly addictive, as you learn to remember the enemy placement, and sneaking around taking out enemies silently with knives is great fun, until you're spotted and it turns into a frantic fight for survival, usually one that I don't survive. But yeah, definitely check this one out. Next up is a mod that I didn't expect to work. It's Mortal Kombat Doom. This is a mod that lets you choose from 9 Mortal Kombat characters, including Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Cyrax, Smoke and Raiden. Essentially it's just a weapons mod where the game stays the same and all that changes are the weapons you use depending on the character you choose. That was fun to say. So once again I have combined it with the Compendium map pack to play different characters in different campaigns. And man, this mod is so well done. Each of the 9 characters has attacks based on their special moves from the Mortal Kombat games. So Sub-Zero can freeze enemies, use his ice axes and swords and so on. Scorpion's got his get over here move, flame swords, and even his finisher where he pulls off his hood to reveal his skull and shoots fire. Smoke has various smoke attacks, Rain has water attacks, and Raiden shoots lightning and so on. I really was impressed with how well it all worked as well. The weapons aren't all available from the start, and you've got to collect them the same way you would guns in the regular game, but I recommend doing what I did and immediately using the IDFA cheat to get all the weapons. All characters can use their fists to attack as well, and these are still powerful and actually very useful. They all have their proper grunts, screams and noises from the games as well, and it's just a really good fit to have these characters in the Doom universe. What's cool is that they've really changed up the physics in the game as well to match the attacks. So Scorpion's get over here move does actually drag enemies towards you, where you can then press the right mouse button to swing your sword and finish them off. There's quite a few little touches like this for you to figure out, which is good fun. The robot characters have their electro net things, and you can actually trap enemies in the nets to make them defenseless. This is just really cool. There is a very good mix of melee and ranged weapons here. A lot of the time the melee weapons are actually more powerful, but of course you get to get up close to attack with them. Some of the characters do seem to have a bit better moves than others, but none are particularly bad, and I was surprised at how fully implemented the weapons and attacks were. They all worked as you'd expect them to and didn't glitch out or anything. The only thing that was a bit of a shame is that a couple of the characters share an attack or two, but really that's a small gripe considering each character has about 10 weapons each, so there's dozens of new ones here to try, and as I said, they work really well in Doom. So yeah, if you're into Mortal Kombat, definitely check this one out, or if you're like me and you don't really like the Mortal Kombat games, this is still a fun one to check out as it works really well in Doom. Play it with your favourite map packs to see if you can finish them. Sorry. Plants vs Demons is another weapon-only mod, so yep, I'm back using the Compendium map pack here. This mod, as you probably guessed, replaces all the weapons in the game with plants from the funky Plants vs Zombies game series, so you can finally try to take down a cyber demon using only vegetation. The pistol is replaced with a pea shooter, which is surprisingly decent, shooting peas that do some decent damage. The shotgun is replaced with the pineapple launcher thing that flings seeds. It's quite powerful, but doesn't have very good range. The super shotgun is a more powerful version that's like a watermelon flinging thing, which is the same but much more powerful, but fires much slower. The chain gun is replaced with a rapid fire pea shooter that is probably my favourite weapon. It's powerful and fires in short bursts. The rocket launcher is now a corn on the cob shooter. It's very slow to fire, taking a second or two after you've pressed the button, but it is powerful, though I didn't tend to use it that much. The plasma gun is replaced with a purple mushroom that fires bubbles. This is a really good weapon to use as it's fast and powerful. The BFG is replaced with an evil mushroom that's basically a nuclear bomb. It's a really cool weapon that kills most enemies in just one hit and definitely clears out a room. All the weapons are actually very fun to use, and they work like they would do in the Plants vs Zombies game. The graphics on them are really good as well. They're all 3D models which look and animate very well. Now the only Plants vs Zombies game that I've actually played is the original one, which I played through on the Xbox 360. I've never played any of the bigger 3D versions, so these might have been taken directly from one of those. I've got no idea. Either way though, I really like the way they look and play. And really, that's all there is to the mod. It's just a simple weapon swap. It can be tough, as these don't always fire like you'd expect, but it's still fun to play through with them, having the added challenge. Next up is Sonic Locked and Loaded, and man, people love to make Sonic mods, don't they? Obviously this one is based on the Sonic the Hedgehog games, and you know what, I really like it. You can choose to play as either Sonic, Classic Sonic, Amy or Shadow through a bunch of really large original levels that combine a whole lot of shooting with a whole lot of platforming. There really is quite a lot here. Each character plays quite differently, which I was pretty surprised at. Sonic can run, double jump and do a homing attack. In fact, you know what, they can all do that. When you aim at an enemy or an item box, you get an indicator on the screen. From here you press the melee button, which you assign yourself, and you dive in for a really powerful melee attack. This is really fun to do, and you can combine it with your regular attacks for massive damage. As you'd expect, rings give you health back, and if you take a hit, you'll lose a chunk of health and drop all the rings, so you do have a quick chance to collect them back up again. There's also blue rings. These give you energy, which is actually your ammo. There's loads of new weapons here, and they all use the same ammo type, it's just some use more ammo than others. You've got the regular pistol, and there's a double-barreled shotgun, a crossbow, plasma gun, railgun, rocket launcher, and more. You've even got Sonic's sword from Sonic and the Black Knight, and Amy uses her hammer, and so on. If you're playing as Classic Sonic, you actually can't use weapons at all. Instead, you have to spin dash into enemies to kill them by pressing the right mouse button to charge it up. Amy's hammer is very powerful, and she has a few different laser-based weapons, and Shadow, being the gun-toting rebel he is, has a load of massive assault rifles and such. But each character still has that lock-on attack, which should be combined with various shots or even other melee attacks for some devastating combos. It's so satisfying to launch yourself into a group of enemies and take out most of them without taking any damage yourself. Being a Sonic game, it's also really fast, and the new levels really lend themselves well to the new gameplay style. There's orbs all over the place that you have to melee attack to activate. This opens doors or moves the scene around and things like that, to let you progress. You can also do wall jumps and slides, which you'll need to do to get around. There's a fair bit of parkour needed here, and being able to wall jump saved my ass on multiple occasions from falling down bottomless pits. Luckily, it's really easy to do and very fun. The levels also look really good, with Sonic textures, and they're loosely based on worlds from Sonic. There aren't a whole load of them, but what's nice is that you get a hub world where you can access the levels, though you do have to complete certain ones for others to open, and there's even levels that only certain characters can get to with their movesets. It's all been designed very well. It's definitely not easy though. I always play on Hurtly Plenty, and I was getting my ass kicked a fair bit, mainly due to the enemies also having a speed and power increase in the mod. It makes fighting cyber demons and even arachnotrons really tough. But it's a really fun mod that looks good, got loads of new game mechanics, and is highly recommended. Next is Star Wars Doom, which is a really old mod being released way back in 1994 if you can believe it. This one might be a bit tenuous to say that it's based on another game, but it uses assets from the Dark Forces game, so I've included it here. As you can guess, it's a mod that changes Doom into a loose retelling of the first movie. You sort of play as every character from the film from the sounds of it, as depending on what you do, you hear various sound clips from the film. Like if you try to open a locked door, you'll hear Han Solo say you can't go that way. But if you get a weapon, you'll hear either Yoda or Obi-Wan say something. So basically let's just say it's an homage to Star Wars and you're not playing as a specific character. All the levels are brand new, and each one is based on a location from the film. None of them are named, so I kind of have to guess, but the first one seems to be the prisons where you're trying to rescue Leia, then later on I found the trash compactor where you discover an incredible smell, and so on. But the levels are all kinda samey, and they're very large and can be incredibly confusing to get around, with teleporters that take you to all sorts of random places, but with enough exploring you will eventually find your way out. As you can see, all the enemies and weapons have been given the Star Wars treatment. There's stormtroopers, droids, the red wearing people things that look tough, and imps have been given a slight makeover, and I now think they're meant to be evil Wookiees, as they make Wookiee sounds. I even bumped into Darth Vader at a few random points, and I blew his ass to hell. The weapons are a mixture of ones from Dark Forces and some others that I didn't recognise. They might be original for this, or maybe they're from other FPS games that I'm just not familiar with. Let me know in the comments below. Everything here is just a reskin of the usual weapons, so they don't actually act any differently to the normal Doom guns, but they just have that look of the Star Wars style, and there's no extra functionality, but that's not really a bad thing. The sprites all look decent enough, and the enemies I believe are mostly taken from the Dark Forces game. The only thing that looks kinda crappy is the lightsaber that replaces the chainsaw, and it sees you just sort of point it in front of you and walk into people. You don't swing it or anything like that. I played this mod for just over an hour, and I do have to say I did have fun playing it, but the confusing level design did start to drag, and I was only on the third level after all that time. Each of the levels looks very similar, but they've done a good job of giving it a Star Wars feel, and at times you really could tell what part of the films you were meant to be playing. If you like Star Wars, then this is worth a look out of curiosity, but I have been told since there's a better Star Wars mod by someone called Zin that I should try. So I'll be doing that at some point. Maybe I should do a Doom mods based on movies. What do you reckon? And finally for today, here is Treasure Tech, a mod that was recommended to me and basically the reason I made another mods based on video games video. This is a really cool mod that was loosely based on the Wario World series of games. Here, Doom Guy finds out that a load of treasure has been discovered in the world of Doom, so sets out to collect it Wario style. This mod only has one original level, which is a training level, but it keeps saying that there are more on the way, so until they arrive you've got to either play the training level, or once you've done that you can just play it alongside any of your usual map packs. Anyway, here you will find treasure all over the place that you want to collect, because you're a greedy bastard. Sadly, there's also a ton of monsters all over the place, but that's alright, as you're Doom Guy. All the weapons have been replaced with brand new ones that are very cartoony. You can only carry a couple at a time, and you still have the usual pistols, shotguns, machine guns, rocket launchers, and so on, but they all work very differently with new firing speeds, firing modes, power, and even secondary functions. There's homing attacks that will stick at enemies and explode, friendly bees that will chase enemies and sting them to death, and more. The weapons here are also really creative, though I've got to say that some of them just feel awful to use thanks to really slow fire rates and reload speeds, but that all adds to the challenge and there's plenty of weapons to choose from, so you usually have the ones that you like in your loadout. But on top of this you've got a bunch of other abilities and moves that you can do that really are fun to use. Firstly, you can jump really high to reach secret areas and ledges that contain sexy treasure. You also have a charge attack where you can shoulder barge enemies. This is pretty powerful and is actually really good for clearing out groups of enemies. When I got used to it, I ended up using it a hell of a lot. You do have to be careful though, as you can still be attacked while charging people. If you're using your fists, which are a lot more powerful now by the way, you can smash certain blocks to find treasure or switches, and you can even pick up enemies to throw them at each other, which is really fun to do, but again, getting in close can mean you take a few hits. You even have a ground pound attack, where you can jump in the air and smash your fists into the floor to break certain floor blocks or to hurt enemies. To be fair, this is quite hard to use, so I didn't really bother a lot of the time. In the training level, and I'm assuming upcoming levels made for the mod, once you've collected the big treasures, to open the exit you press a frog lever, and of course the timer appears and you've got to escape before it runs out. This is good fun, and loads of enemies spawn in, which can make it tricky, but it's also a good excuse to use up any remaining ammo in your weapons. The levels all look great as well, with some excellent textures, and I really like the lighting here. You even get a cool intro sequence to set the mood. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this mod for the new levels when they're released, and I do recommend giving it a check out in the meantime. So there you go, another 10 mods based on other video games. As always, shout at me in the comments below to let me know what other mods I should check out. And yes, I have covered the Ashes mods, both of them. People always mention them in the comments. Just watch the other videos in this series and you'll find them. Anyway, now all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.